Hey everybody, just a quick video to introduce myself and talk a little bit about the class and give you an idea of what to expect over the next 7 weeks. A lot of this material will be kind of repeated, so sorry about that, but in some cases it's kind of necessary through some of this intro stuff, I mean. I wanted to introduce myself and just kind of give you a sense of kind of where we're going. So just first off, just a little bit about me. I'll be your professor for the next 7 weeks. My name is Dr. Jeff Winkle, and I am a professor here in the Humanities Department at GRCC. My academic background actually is in ancient Greek and Roman stuff. I got my undergraduate degree and my PhD in what we call classics, and that's a term in academia which means anything having to do with the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans. And in my case, in my own research interests, mythology and ancient religion are right at the forefront. So this is one of my favorite classes to teach. It's a subject that I've studied for many years. I know a lot about. I love it deeply, and I hope that kind of passion comes through. So I've been a professor here for a few years at GRCC, and I introduced this classical mythology class to the curriculum just a couple of years ago, and it's been really popular, and it's been a lot of fun, and I'm just starting to offer it as an online option as you guys will be experiencing it. Just other things, just a little bit about me. I've traveled a lot to Italy and Greece. I've actually taken GRCC students over to Greece, where we've kind of visited the ruins and Athens and Olympia and Delphi and all these wonderful places, and kind of seeing the culture that kind of produced these stories up front. And you'll see that in my presentations and lectures throughout the 7 weeks. There's a lot of focus on the archaeology and the history. And I think that Greco-Roman mythology is best understood when it's contextualized, when we try our best to understand it, how the Greeks understood it, and then also kind of how these stories have changed and been shaped and reshaped and changed and retold throughout the years. That's also really fascinating, and I think one of the main reasons that we're still interested in Greek mythology is because we can always find new ways to tell these particular stories. I live here in town in Grand Rapids, in Heritage Hill, just a mile or two from my office where I'm sitting, and I live there with my wife, Becky, and I have 3 young crazy boys who are all interested in Greek myths in their own right, and love the stories of Homer and love the myths and kind of all the fantasy and science fiction that are still based on a lot of Greek mythology. This class is what we call an asynchronous class. That means we will not be having live Zoom meetings or Skype meetings as a class. Rather, what I will do on the course Blackboard site, each week we'll have a folder under the weekly assignments tab, as you'll see, and you'll be expected to kind of complete everything in that folder by the end of the week. And so I give kind of each week I'll give an outline of kind of a way you might kind of divide up the week and what may be a good idea of what you should try to accomplish each day over the week. But by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, I'll expect that you have completed the work for that week, the readings, the lectures, quizzes, forum questions, and then the next week's folder will open, and the same thing will happen. I have more on this in other videos too, and I think it'll be fairly self-explanatory, but again, as always, let me know if things are unclear. So this is a 7-week class, which brings its own challenges. And so it's a lot of material crammed into a small space, and that's in some ways just unavoidable. So it's extra incumbent upon you to kind of stay on top of things. Being an asynchronous class, an online class, a lot of the onus, a lot of the burden is on you. Online classes, I think they work better for some people and not as well for others. They take some getting used to. And I mean, one of the things about online classes is that you really have to be a self-starter in many ways. It's with a classroom experience, you can show up to class, you can work that into your schedule, and a lot of the work of the class is done in the classroom. We don't have that luxury for an online class. So if you if you are a self-starter, if you can work well independently and can get a jump on things and stay on top of things, great. This will be perfect for you. If it's not your pace, this will take some getting used to. This is just a long way of saying is that I encourage you to stay on top of the weekly work and do your utmost best to not fall behind, because it's so easy to do, and especially with a shortened semester, a 7-week class, it's very easy to do so. And I am here to help you in any possible way that I can do so. Now I'll have more information in other things coming up about in overview of the class. In fact, you'll see a syllabus walkthrough video in the orientation folder under the weekly assignments tab on the Blackboard site. So I don't want to say too much about it now, but I will say is that this class will be almost exclusively focused on Greek mythology. We'll dip a little bit into kind of Mesopotamian culture, Egyptian culture. Maybe at the tail end, if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about the Romans, whose kind of rise of empire and culture kind of followed the zenith of the ancient Greek moment. But for the most part, we'll spend most of our time looking at Greek myths and the Greek culture that produced these things, which I think in many ways is, for a class like this and for the 7-week window we have, it's the best way to do things. So we'll be looking at Greek myths. We'll be reading some Homer. We're going to be reading Homer's Odyssey in English translation, of course. We'll be watching a film. We'll be watching O Brother, Where Art Thou, which is came out about 20 years ago. Maybe some of you have seen it, but it's kind of a modern take on Homer's Odyssey, set in the American South in the 1930s. A wonderful, wonderful film. We'll be reading some Greek drama, lots of hero stories. We'll be considering kind of how did Greek myth function as religion, which I think is something that not a lot of mythology classes cover in my experience. But what did it mean for the Greeks to believe in these gods and worship these gods? Really try to recover some of that human aspect of these stories and treat them not just as wonderful tales, but as in some ways kind of scripts for belief, scripts for ritual. That's one of the things I'm really fascinated in, and I think that's what makes these stories in many ways kind of very gritty and real. I've ordered a couple of books for the class. The two that you'll need is the Barry Powell Classical Myth text. That will be kind of our anchor text for the course. That's the one you'll need more or less immediately. So pick that up as soon as you can. And then also I've ordered Stanley Lombardo's translation of Homer's Odyssey, which is a great translation and reasonably priced. I know that probably some of you have read the Odyssey before, perhaps, or read parts of it in other classes that you've taken. So if you already have a translation on hand, that's fine. I'm always in favor of students saving money. But if you are able to buy the Lombardo text, it's a really good one. And when it comes to testing, if I put a quote on a quiz or a test or something like that, do know that I'll be using the Lombardo translation. So get those two texts as soon as you can. Again, 7-week class, we're going to jump in with both feet, and so the sooner you have them in your hands, the better. That's all I got for just an intro video. Again, as always, let me know if you have questions. The best way to get a hold of me is just shoot me an email at jeffreywinkle@grcc.edu. And hope to encounter you digitally very soon.